Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today's going to be somewhat of a follow-up to the previous podcast where I had Chris Lathrop on. Chris is a investigator of the Las Vegas alien incident from 2023, and Chris came on and he provided the full 8.5-minute long 911 call that was made by Angel Kenmore and his father, Bobby Kenmore, in the early morning hours of May 1st, 2023, to report alien beings in their backyard. And during that show, I touched on also that I had been attacked the day before, actually 2 days ago, on X by a lot of people, including some bigger names like John Greenwald, who just are incapable of accepting this evidence, and are actually even beyond that. He didn't even bother to look into it. He just reacted to one of the images that I posted on Twitter. I actually posted a whole bunch of different things on Twitter. And I want to talk about that a little bit. And then I want to show how a lot of people who are looking at this they understand that this event really happened. And not only that, I just got off the phone earlier today with Scott Roeder. He was leaving Los Angeles. He was filming a segment for the History Channel's Ancient Alien show, where they're going to do an episode about that's going to premiere in April of this year. So there's a lot of people taking interest in this event for sure, and unfortunately people like incredibly to me, surprisingly, John Greenwald seems to know nothing about this case, or knew nothing about it at least 2 days ago, and said that it's all ridiculous and nonsense. And of course Mick West, the debunker, he chimed in, the guy who's a chicken who's afraid to provide a scientific analysis in an effort to refute Scott Roeder's analysis. And also, I just want to also point out that the one gentleman, Aldo Rotondale, who I was talking about a few months back, late last year. Of course, I was not happy with Aldo because he wanted me to sign an NDA. He has his own organization called AdaptNet AI, and he put his own report out, and he has him and his group have put a report out now as well. I'm going to leave a link to that so you can check out Aldo Rotondale's report, and he pretty much concurs with Scott Roeder's findings that there were alien creatures in the backyard. In that video that can be seen in that video. And I've discussed this ad nauseum, as everyone who follows my podcast knows, for the past 10 months, something like that. I mean, I talked about it longer than that, but it wasn't until April of last year when we really started talking about it. And when we realized that we have absolute proof now, that we're able to show scientifically, forensically, that there were creatures in that backyard, and that the the cell phone footage, was not tampered with. However, the other day I just felt, you know what, I'm going to put some stuff on Twitter. I haven't really been active on X recently, excuse me. And, I post here and there, and I like things here and there, and I'll repost things here and there. And sometimes I'll put a link to one of my podcasts on there every once in a while, but I haven't really been too active on there recently. And I just figured, you know what, I'm going to let everyone know about this Vegas alien case again, because it's not going away. And it's the best evidence we have out there in the public domain. It puts everything else to shame. But I got a reaction from some people. For instance, there was a guy, Steve Skojek, and he's someone who's very interested in UFOs. He has like 70,000 followers on X. He looked at it. He says he can't see it. He spent about an hour, looking at it online. He read Scott Roeder's report, and he still didn't accept it. I can't help it if some people can't accept scientific evidence. That's not my problem. That's their problem. I know there's things out there that have been proven. It's like with anything in life, right? There are some things out there that we know are facts, but there's some people who don't believe it anyway. And I think that's what we're getting here now. And I don't know how to explain John Greenwald. I mean, you have to ask yourself questions of, okay, why would you react like this? Like, why would you act so outraged and upset, saying stuff like, we're sick of this? Like, what do you mean? Who's we? We're sick of this. We're sick of this. Like, he's talking about this case, like he's sick of hearing it. I mean, he apparently doesn't even know anything about it, jumped to conclusions, and then, basically using laughing emojis, things like that, laughing memes, laughing emojis, stuff like that, as responses, instead of looking at the data that's been assembled, trying to absorb the totality of everything with regards to that case. No, he just jumps right to the end and he says, I don't believe it, and you're a fool, basically. That's what we got. But I want to go over some of those, just for posterity. I want to go over what happened here. We're going to switch over here. We're going to look at the screen here. This is from Twitter from a couple of days ago. I started off with a picture of the undeniable backbreaker, as we call him, or UB for short. And I wrote, let's rip off the Band-Aid UFO Twitter. Here are the images that Mick West and other naysayers don't want you to know about. They don't even want to talk about it because they realize what it represents. This first one here is of a short gray captured in the Vegas alien video. So then I actually had that was just the first one. I put up a bunch of other ones. I had the enhanced versions of it. I showed another different frame where the creature throws its head back. But John Greenwald, he just went right to this first one that I put out, and he just threw a comment on there, and this is what he wrote. He says, sure, let's just pretend the, quote, head in the 8-pixel image with no context simply is floating in midair. Just stop. How embarrassing. Now, how could, what's really funny about this, the irony here, is like he's talking about how embarrassing this is. He didn't realize how much of an embarrassing thing he just did to himself here. He has no idea what he's talking about. He thinks I'm putting up just a floating picture of an alien head. That's not what I did here. It was a close-up frame from that video showing that creature's head. But he didn't even bother to look into this, didn't bother to investigate, just jumped to conclusions for some reason. So I ended up writing back to him at one point. I said, it's not floating in midair. You just made a total and utter fool out of yourself, John. This is the problem in this space. You have not researched this case and simply reacted to one singular image. There's a lot more to it than this. And then I followed up with saying, something stinks in the UFO community, and it's reactionary BS like this that's the culprit. I would never conduct research like that. I'd ask questions, investigate, and take the time necessary to understand what I'm commenting on before I offer comment. And then I followed that up with John, and he didn't even do the investigation. I wrote that. I said, John, you didn't do that, and then you have the audacity to write, how embarrassing. The irony of your statement was not lost on me, and I'm sure that's the case for a lot of other folks who've been following this case. John wrote back to saying, if you showed proof of an alien, you'd have more engagement from people that would far outweigh my 2 cents, yet you don't. Why? Because this is silly and people are getting tired of it. No, that's not silly, John. I mean, it's just because I don't have a large following. I mean, how long have you been studying this? I've only been doing it for a little over 3 years here, right? Or something to that effect. I think since almost 4 years now I've been doing it online, and it's taken a long time to build up the number of subscribers I have at this point. I have like over 9,000 on Spotify, and I have over 5,000 on YouTube, right? You've been doing this for what? Since before the year 2000, I believe. And then since the 90s, you've been doing the FOIA stuff. You have a much larger following than I would have. And here's the thing. A lot of people just don't know about it yet. I've been just going through doing the research, presenting different episodes. A lot of people who come on who find my show, a lot of them like what I'm doing. They see the proof that I've laid out here, thanks to people like Scott Roeder and Chris Lathrop and many others, right? And they've accepted it because it's undeniable. When you take this case in its totality, you realize that there's something really happened here, and they actually have proof. There is evidence. That shows that these people actually saw aliens. And actually, Mick West had to start chiming in then too. He says, sadly, I think Jim does not really understand pixels, so your argument might be lost on him. Now, Mick West doesn't usually comment on this too much, but he couldn't help himself now that John Greenwald was involved. And I wrote back saying, clearly Mick West is reaching at straws right now because he's incapable of debunking it. Chris Lathrop came in on my defense. He says, every person in the world combined with a concerted effort could not debunk this case. Real cases with this much circumstantial evidence supporting it are impossible to debunk. And it's so true. And also Scott Roeder chimed in. He says, tell that to the History Channel. Yeah, there's just so much for people to learn, including John Greenwald. Yeah, I don't know why he decided or he thought it was prudent to act like an idiot on Twitter, but that's what he does sometimes. I guess he wants to, when he goes on to attack, and this is how he acts, and he thinks he's all righteous and stuff like that, and he thinks he's smart, but he's not. He's not. He just made a total absolute fool out of himself, as did Mick West. Mick West has been making a fool out of himself, though, however, for a very long time. Anyway. Later on, Greenwald writes, you should have explained it then, because I see an 8-pixel image, some misleading coloration to make it look alien, and then you being all upset someone doesn't buy your 8-pixel image as proof of aliens. Again, he doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. He doesn't understand that it's not just that little image there. You actually see the creature moving in the video, right? That's just a still image of it, right? We have it moving. We have it looking out, noticing that people are there, turning its head, and then flinging its head backward. We have it on video. It's there. There's nothing you can do about it. It's proof. It's been shown to be proof by video experts that looked at it. Right? Where's your video expert, John? Mick West won't look at it. Is he even a qualified video expert? I don't think he is. And then when I wrote back to him, I said there was a scientific and forensic analysis conducted on the video by video experts, and their conclusion was that there are multiple alien creatures captured in the video. The family called 911 to report alien creatures in their yard, and he writes back saying, well, where have you listed these forensic analysts and their credentials? I clearly missed that. And then I told him about Scott Roeder and his team determined that the video wasn't tampered with and that there were strange creatures appearing and disappearing throughout its 1 minute and 41 second long duration. And then he asked for the report, so I sent it to him. But then, of course, some of his lemmings had to start chiming in, including this one. This is the funniest one. UAP researcher. Can't even spell. This guy's supposed to be a UFO researcher. He calls himself researcher. He can't even spell researcher right. He writes, this is stretching. I can't see nada. And I wrote back saying, that's because you have the attention span of a 2-year-old and you have not conducted an iota of research. I have video experts on my side telling me there are aliens in the video. Go get your experts and then come back. He writes back saying, UAP researcher. Writes back, on this very fuzzy picture, no, I haven't conducted one iota research. My preference is to spend time conducting research on items with a higher probability of legitimacy. Now, how could somebody, actually, now anybody out there who's been paying attention to this case, if you're a serious investigator into this phenomenon, how could you write that statement, especially without knowing anything about this case? I mean, for one thing, it's funny. Let's just stop here for a second. Let's just talk about John Greenwald actually acknowledges he saw the alien face. He thinks I did something to make it look like an alien, that I did something with the coloring. The only thing I did was I brightened it a little bit. It was zoomed in and brightened a little bit. That's all I did. I didn't do anything at all. And I stabilized the video in the video version. That's about it, right? But I didn't do anything to the coloring, okay? And this guy here, UAP researcher, right? Again, I don't know who the hell would hire him to research anything, or why he has the belief that a guy like that who can't even spell what researcher considers himself a UAP researcher. I mean, I don't even know. Where do you begin? Where do you begin? I don't even know what this. It's hard to even comment on some of this stuff. It's so bad. I mean, I'll leave links to this, and you could check out my Twitter. So you could, it's the stuff I write on X. You could check out these, because there's a lot more. I'm not going to read every single comment that everyone gave here. I can't do that. I don't have the time to do that. And I don't want to test your patience either. But I did get some, there were some people that came in and, stood by it. Like Star Cyber writes, well, how do you know it has, if it has legitimacy, if you won't do any kind of in-depth research into it? That's kind of contradictory. You're acting like Jim is the one that stated there are beings in this backyard, when it came from a high-end expert in crime scene investigation that started that. But you wouldn't know that if you don't do any research into it. Ironically, I'm really surprised that the lack of scientific spirit a lot of people have. Yeah, I'm surprised at it too. See, I think that there are some people in the UFO community, I've said this before, I do believe some people are plants. They're just there to make sure that the Pandora doesn't escape from the box. That's what I do believe that. I believe that, it's very possible that I've named some names before. I don't know if that's the case with John Greenwald. Like I've stated in the previous show, I do respect the effort that he's put in to this subject over the years, trying to get all these documents through the Freedom of Information Act. I just don't know how someone could do that. I don't know how, if you consider yourself somebody serious in this field, you're best off don't comment on it at all. Then if you don't have nothing to say, if you didn't investigate it and you don't even know what you're talking about yet, why would you put your neck out on the line like this? Is it ontological shock? Perhaps. I don't know. I don't think so. I think I don't think he knew anything about this case. He was reacting to the first image that I threw out there, and I threw a whole bunch of images on there. I had images of I had enhanced versions of this one here in two different positions. Where another one where he had his head thrown back. I talked about that in a previous show, and I also had. I actually showed the big one over the fence, the lurching over the fence. I had that one in there, and I had the one that looks like an exact match to one of the Allagash 4 aliens. So I mean, it wasn't just that, and we have links to to all these shows I've done over the last 10 months about this case. I mean, you have Scott Roeder's research paper. Now you have Aldo Rotondele's research paper, pretty much in agreement with it. I mean, so where's everyone else in the UFO community? Why are they staying away from this? Are some people being told to stay away from this? I've been hearing rumblings, actually. That's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing things that are going on behind the scenes with regard to this case. I hear that there is an effort to conceal this from the public. Is John Greenwald part of that, perhaps? I doubt it, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know why someone... I mean, this is like... I know this is real. I know this really happened. I've researched this long enough to make that conclusion. I have experts telling me that the video is real. So I know it's real. So you didn't have to ask yourself questions like, why would someone like John Greenwald immediately come in and start talking about how embarrassing this stuff is when he doesn't know anything about it? I don't know. I think what happened was I put this stuff on there. If you look at it, it has at this point right now, 27,000 views. 27,000 people looked at it, over 100 likes. I mean, that's not a lot, but it's a lot for me on Twitter. Maybe they're getting scared that a lot of people are looking at this all of a sudden. Maybe they don't like that. That means people are going to know that it's real then. And then maybe that's the whole problem here. Maybe some people are out there that's all a big giant grift and they just want to keep the mystery going, right? Because once everyone knows that it's real, well, then maybe the money's going to stop flowing in for them. I don't know. I don't know how that will work. I don't know. Can't you foresee? Can't you envision what it's going to be like after the fact? Don't you think there's going to be still a lot to talk about here? I do. It's not going to end if that's the case. I don't know. I'm just throwing these out there, these possibilities out there. I don't know what the possibilities are. But I do know this. I know that I'm right, and a vast majority of the people that comment on my channels believe the same thing. And we're going to talk about some of those comments right now. And this is from the previous episode, and this was with regard to that episode where I talked about the 911 calls. Okay, let's see here. This is from, we're going to go to Spotify first. This was from Babs954. Says, great job again. Why did the father say his last name was Kenmore? I thought that name was made up for privacy. Yeah, we don't know the answer to that. I don't know if they're just... Kenmore, as far as I know, right? Kenmore was not their last name, official last name, as far as I know. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe they're using that. I don't know if maybe they weren't living in the country this whole time. I mean, obviously, when you listen to them speaking, English is not their first language. Chris Lathrop brought that up in the previous show. So we don't have the answer for that yet. I don't know why their name. I was under the understanding that Kenmore was a pseudonym, but yet when they contacted 911, that was the name that they gave. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I do understand that Kenmore is not their official name. So I don't know what the answer to that question is at this point. And then CJK writes, to be fair, the 911 dispatcher handled that call really well. I mean, it's not every day you get someone calling in to report 10-foot tall ETs in their backyard. Asking about drugs, alcohol, and weapons is standard requirement. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was the funny part about the 911 call when the dispatcher asked Angel if these beings were under the influence, if he thought the beings were under the influence of drugs or alcohol. I think, yeah, that's what it is. I mean, they're trained to say this every time, and they just never got a call like this before, I'm sure. Jason L. Fredericks writes, I think people who are outraged haven't seen all the evidence that you and Scott have presented. I have only heard people refute the event outright without presenting any of their own evidence. I've not seen anyone do any of their own analysis. No, that's the whole issue here. There's people who, a lot of times the people who comment here aren't providing, they don't do any sort of analysis. They just say they don't believe it. And you have to wonder, is there some sort of a mental block dropping down in front, in front of their cerebral cortex or something that's preventing them from thinking about this? I don't know. It could be some mechanism that protects their sanity that's going into play. They don't want to. They don't want to know. They think they do. Maybe John Greenwald thinks he's interested in this subject, but in reality, his subconscious doesn't want to know about it. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that him, Mick West, and anybody else who's saying anything against this case, they're totally, absolutely wrong. Absolutely, totally making fools out of themselves. And I can tell you this, I can guarantee you one thing, right? In the future, right, the history books are going to show that all those people were wrong, and everyone who was trying to tell them that, no, this thing really happened, and it does serve as proof that we are not alone, right? We're going to be on the right side of history. They're going to be on the wrong side of history, right? That's what's going to happen. I guarantee it. Right? That's guaranteed. Okay, Let Free Your UAP says, when you add all the evidence, the video phone call, the footage of the meteor, sound of the falling UAP, other people collaborating the stories, the security surveillance system next door, too much to be a fake. It would be great if someone could do a in-depth investigation of the area and maybe interview neighbors. And it was a meteor that hit the ground. Maybe there's someone watching or filming it besides ring cams, and if there were evidence of the so-called actual meteorite, keep it up, Jim. Well, I don't know if we never had any evidence of a meteorite. There's nothing like that's ever cropped up, but we have been able to show via geo mapping, thanks to Chris Lathrop again, that the object did come down in the vicinity of the Kenmore's property. We know that. Me writes, are the aliens drinking or on drugs? Yeah, they're having a party in my backyard. Let's see. Dubadare says, sounds pretty legit to me. Has anyone heard from this family since? I don't know what's going on with the family right now. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to be participating in any sort of documentaries in the future, or if, I don't know what the story is right now. I really don't. I really can't say. But I know that they're sick of talking about this case, and I do know that it scares them. They ended up moving out of the house because it scared them so much, and that's all we could say right now. Okay, now moving over to YouTube. Let's see. Billy111 says, once again, Chris Lathrop comes through. You're the man, Chris. Yes, he is. Thank you so much, Chris. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, this has been a grassroots effort. This is what it's been. There's a lot of people. Some people I never even talked to. I mean, I have to give credit to people like the popular YouTuber Sherman for scoring that interview last March? It was almost a year ago when he published that. That led to me doing another show about it, because Sherman got the chance to talk to that family, and then that led to Julia June, a New York resident and subscriber to my channel, who was watching that episode, who said I didn't realize that she noticed that I wasn't realizing that there was a head above the fence, so I did a show about what she was telling me, and then Scott Roeder saw that, and then the rest is history. So there's a lot of people involved in this and getting this story out. So yeah, Chris Lathrop is one of them. He has been doing a lot of work on this. So yes. Nick ILB says, glad you guys got hold of the tape. Good job. Paul Burney says, that young man is real. His dad is real. They weren't blanking around. Wow, this is nuts. And let's see, eTalkin2268 says, when debunkers come after you, that's a sign it's true. And I wrote back to him saying, definitely, yes, it is. It's a sign it's true. What did Shakespeare say? I said that yesterday. One of the famous Shakespeare lines, the lady doth protest too much, methinks. Right? I think John Greenwald doth protest too much, methinks, because when you're doing that shows that something's funny going on to me. I mean, I would never do that. If, like I say, somebody throws a picture of a flying saucer on Twitter, and all of a sudden I say, this is fake, this is embarrassment, without me having any idea about the history behind it, the story behind it, not looking into it one bit. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't act like that. But John Greenwald felt it prudent to act like that, and look what happens. Now he's going to go down as, I don't know what kind of people. I mean, put it this way. If you're following, you're a big fan of someone like this, right? And I am. I'm actually a fan of John Greenwald and his work. I don't like the way he's, sometimes it seems over the last few years, where he's acting more like a debunker, but at the same time, I do respect him because of all of his FOIA work. But this, something like this would make me, it would give me pause, as a follower to how could I trust this guy? I mean, how could you trust someone who reacts like this and treats people like this, tries to smear them? Basically, he tried to smear me, tried to make me look like a fool over something he had no idea about. Didn't even bother to investigate or look into it or ask questions. Just react it. He doesn't know anything about it. The biggest case of all time. And where's he been for the past 10 months? With his thumb up his ass, waiting for some more declassified documents to get delivered to his door that are going to be all redacted anyway? Okay, moving on. Sub-Zero Cage says, you can tell in his voice he's not lying. Yes, I thought I could tell. Now that we have the full 911 call, you could tell by both of their voices, father and son, there was no lying going on. Tets4316 says, thanks, Chris, for getting the phone recording. It's amazing. Bill Davis writes, 3 minutes in, this is insane. I can feel the fear going on in Angel's voice. This is 100% credible. Wow. Thanks to Chris. And then E. Ringrear, Aaron Greer says, hearing the audio makes this experience so much better and realer. The Kenmores saw something otherworldly, that's for sure. Christiana writes, this is the best evidence. With the video, family testimony, and this 911 recording, it's undeniable. This is far more conclusive to me than anything else anyone has presented thus far. Thank you, Jim. 100%. You had a bunch of 100%s there. Right. So there you go. I mean, how all these people, right, on YouTube, Spotify, a lot of people who've been following this case, listening to my show, they agree. Most of them. There's some people who have trouble, right? That's fine. If you don't want to see, maybe something's in your mind making you, preventing you from realizing that this is real. Maybe that's I don't know. Like I'm saying, it could be ontological shock. I really don't know. And I don't know what John Greenwald's problem is either. Obviously, he didn't do his research. I don't see. Here's the thing. I'm at the point now, right? I can't trust if somebody was to sit down and look at all of this evidence, right? Go through all the documentation, look at all the interviews that Doug Papa had with Angel, look at all of the video itself. You look at the video, you do an analysis of that yourself, right? Don't rely on other people. Do it yourself, right? You will know. You're going to know that this is real. But I have trouble trusting someone, especially in the UFO community, who immediately goes to, oh, this is ridiculous. This is embarrassing. What's embarrassing is what you're doing, what you just did. That's what's embarrassing here. It is a total embarrassment. I'm actually embarrassed for John Greenwald right now. I am very embarrassed for him. Okay, Merchant of Click says, drunk and high aliens. Laughing, he says that would be quite something to behold. Yeah, he was talking about what the dispatchers stated. Pam Harris says, I believe these people, this audio tape, the videotape. What more does anyone need? Exactly. What more does anyone need? Bill Davis again says he got goosebumps listening to this. No wonder the family moved. Oh my God, this is crazy. Thanks, Jim. Awesome work. That's another thing. I want to talk about, what was interesting about this. He heard Angel, multiple times in different interviews, and now we hear it in the 911 call. We didn't hear that part before, where he states that there was some sort of an energy coming off the creatures that paralyzed them, and then his father said something very similar. Said there was an energy and he couldn't walk. And I think when you're watching that video, when he starts walking when they all start walking into the yard, and then right before they start running back out, you could see them, you could hear the fear. Something happened to them, right? There was some sort of energy that was paralyzing them. That's people wonder why they didn't start using their guns. That's because they were feeling this energy. Obviously, that's what it was. KJTZ7VC says, I can't think of any good reason that this family would have called 911 and given a BS story to police. They saw something. Shiva, I can't pronounce the whole the whole name here, but she gave me a $2 tip here, and she says, "Thanks, Jim Quirk, for all that you're doing to keep the interest and dialogue going on this case. Also, really grateful to Chris Lathrop for getting the full call as well as his investigative work. The 911 lady asking if the creatures are drunk, be like, yeah, I've seen this before. These 10-foot aliens love visiting Vegas for spring break and trying out certain human beverages. Every time they end up crashing in people's backyards." Too funny that she asked that. Yeah, and I do think that the reason that question was asked because it's just protocol. They do that every single time. They're usually not dealing with aliens. I would say 99.99% of the time. Very, very few calls about aliens in your backyard. That might be the very first one, actually. I don't know. Is there any other? Did anyone ever in this world make a 911 call to report aliens in their backyard before this? I don't know. Mr. Scott says, "This is my favorite case of all time. Best evidence out there. Kudos to my favorite people on YouTube." Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. A lot of people are saying this is the best evidence they've ever seen. That's because, you know what? It is. It is the best evidence. There's nothing else out there that's better than it right now. I'm sure the government's sitting on some things that if we saw that would probably supplant it, right? But at this moment in time, the best evidence we have right now is what we have assembled thus far with regard to the Las Vegas alien incident. Unfortunately for people like John Greenwald, he's incapable of taking the time out before reacting to something he knows nothing about until he could get a chance to, in an effort to understand it. He won't take that. He should have done that first before reacting. You know, hopefully, right, I'm going to be wrong about this, but I don't expect him to come back and say he believes it now. If he does go back and look at this stuff, I don't expect him one bit, because you have to remember there are a lot of people out there, especially they love attention and stuff like that. They're very egotistical, right? And that's going to be, they don't like admitting when they're wrong, and they never will. So yeah, you gotta, we'll see though. I hope I'm wrong about that. I really do. Let's see. Derek Farmer says, "Why does it seem like this is the most legitimate other terrestrial recording of all time, yet even ufologists refuse to give it the proper credit? I honestly do not get it. Sketchy eggs? I expect Jonathan Winters to crawl out of one of those damn eggs." If you remember season 2 of Mork and Mindy, he's talking about the claims of the egg-shaped UFOs. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's the new stuff coming out. Some of the commentary from Jake Barber, the new whistleblower, and talking about egg-shaped craft, and but nothing. Even with the stuff he's provided, I mean, nothing that anybody's put forward to this point, Matt, it could compete with this. It just can't. It can't. This has it all. This has everything. It has the most insane story you ever heard, but it could be verified, right? It's all, we have the object captured on multiple cameras coming down from the sky. We have another camera capturing it that where we're able to hear what it sounded like as it came down, right? We have a police body camera capturing it as it dropped from the sky. We know that it wasn't giving off a heat signature, right? And that we know that there was people in multiple states that saw it coming down. One woman in Arizona said after it dropped in the area where it fell, she saw 2 UFOs hovering in that area for like an hour straight. So there's all of that. You have the 911 call. You have the police video of the cops showing up at the house, interviewing the witnesses, and then we still haven't received the video that shows them police interviewing them in the yard, investigating the yard. We don't have that. That's still unavailable. But we do have the police then talking to the witnesses again at the end of the video, at the end of their investigation, and then leaving. We have all of that. There's so much to this case, right? So much. And then we have the video. We have the 1 minute and 41 second long video, right? That shows aliens in it. It does. There's video analysis, video experts that are telling you that this video wasn't tampered with and that there are entities in that video. Tokitch writes, "I believe this was a real encounter. I would like to know the following. Why did Doug Papa run away? Were there any other 911 calls later that evening that could show these beings were on the move?" Regarding the 911 calls, we don't know about that yet. I believe that there probably were 911 calls. I heard that there might have been other 911 calls to report the object coming down from the sky. We don't have them right now. As for Doug Papa, he was investigating this, and then all of a sudden he stopped investigating it. My theory with regard to to him was that he was tired of trying to contact these people, and then they would blow him off. I think that's what it was. He got upset because they weren't talking to him anymore about it. They didn't want to talk about it anymore, and so he just decided to call it a hoax. It's like the the Aesop fable, sour grapes. You can't reach the grapes on the tree, the fox couldn't, and then he decided, you know what, they're probably sour anyway. So I think that's what happened with Doug Papa. I don't know for sure. Some people are saying that MIB got involved, and that's why a lot of people aren't talking about this. I've actually been told just recently, and I can't say this is true or not. I'm just telling you, I hear a lot of different things. A lot of different people contact me privately. Somebody told me that if my podcast ever gets any much bigger, then I'm going to get contacted and be told something. But the second I get contacted, then I'm just going to immediately go right to the podcast, and I don't care. I don't care. I'll report that I just got MIB'd. So no, I'm not worried about that one bit, and I'm not sure if those stories are true or not. This is what some people are telling me behind the scenes. I've heard a lot of different things. I just don't know though. And I really don't care. It's already too late as far as anyone should be concerned. It's too late. I mean, John Greenwald, wow, you're talking really late to this party, man. And this guy's supposed to be really into this subject, a big time UFO guy. But guess what? He dropped the ball on this, didn't pay attention to it. And now when he sees something, he reacts. He just can't believe it. He's flabbergasted, right? This is fake, or you made it look like an alien somehow. What are you talking about? The guy has no idea what he was talking about. Shouldn't have acted like that. That's not the way to handle yourself. Just not. Anyway, I want to say this. I want to say thank you, everyone, for all the comments. That's very much appreciated. And I also want to say thank you very much for joining me today. Until next time.